Gotham Knights episode 10, where we did an entire episode on radiation, and yet didn't even bother to Google it. The plot in this has more holes in it than Swiss cheese, and the only way this could have even got made is if they assume that the audience is as thick as they are. 5-second Google search would destroy your episode. Maybe you're in the wrong business. The episode starts as it means to go on, with the first 3 sentences coming across as if they were written by a slug.
These are the only supplies I was able to grab while my mom wasn't looking.
Turner has got poisoned by a magic rock that gives you immortality. Yeah, don't worry, I got my mum's medical bag. Yeah, love, those bandages and plasters really gonna come in clutch in this one.
But does anyone know what we actually need?
That's a good point. Does anybody know what we actually need? Hang on, let me just Google magic space rock poisoning. I'm sure they'll have something on WebMD. Oh no, she's actually Googling it. How much more zoomer do you have to get? Hang on, he's been poisoned by a rock from space. Let me check TikTok, see if they've got anything.
The web's not exactly brimming with info on how to treat a rare illness from a rock that makes people live forever.
You don't say, love. Colour me surprised. It does lead me into my next question then, though. What on earth do you think you're doing searching the internet for information about a magic space rock in the first place? What do you even type in this scenario? So my boyfriend that was stuck in a love triangle with me has got poisoned by a magic space rock that gives him immortality. Reddit. Do you have any solutions? Could you check your kitchen cupboard, see if you've got anything that could help?
But I'm checking med school message boards next.
Why? Just when you think she can't get any stupider, she shines a light in one ear and it comes out the other. She's supposed to be a genius, remember? And yet when she needs medical advice, she's gone, well, I've gone and asked the student message boards. Couldn't even be bothered to go and ask an actual doctor. No, I'm going to the students. Let me go and ask the 20-year-olds who have all of the experience being a doctor that I have. Yeah, if I ever need life-saving medical advice, the person I'm going to go to is somebody who's not even old enough to go to a bar. When their entire attention span is a 6-second TikTok video, I don't really think they're equipped for this kind of problem.
Please, that brat needs something to take the edge off.
What on earth are you actually doing, love? She's going through these drawers looking for somebody's secret stash. What on earth do you think you're going to do with it? I know she says, okay, let's give it to him to take the edge off. He's unconscious. How are you going to do that? And also, if this guy is severely ill and struggling to breathe in the first place, do you really think that's going to help him? That's not even the biggest problem with this scenario. Why are people storing their stash in your top secret hideout full of criminals, which are wanted by every person in the city? The entire point of this belfry is that nobody went in it and nobody knew about it, and now we find out, actually, people are coming up here all the time. These people would have got caught by the police in a night. But of course, there's one perfect person in this entire crew. And she's done it again. The computer hacker, bomb disposal expert, engineer, and basically everything else we've ever needed is also a doctor. What can I say? Gotham Knights showrunner definitely had a favourite. But she's going through a medical textbook.
Everyone, back off. Back away from Turner, now.
Based economy.
That guy is dying over there. Can we get all the cretins out the room, please? If you could back off, out of the studio, go home, and wipe this off your CV, we'll all be a lot better off, thank you. But they back off, and she goes over to this suitcase. There has been no gap in time during this. She just walked over there and pulls out
Geiger counter.
I would question why you have a Geiger counter just sitting up there in a clock tower.
Found it in the school's old bomb shelter.
Yeah, but when? You only knew he was radioactive like 3 seconds ago. What were you doing in the school's bomb shelter and then thought, yay, a Geiger counter? What were you doing with it before? Checking if your cheese was safe to eat?
Tracks radiation.
It doesn't track radiation. It detects radiation. Yes, you can narrow it down by the signal getting stronger, but it doesn't go, oh look, north. And if you're like, nah, that was just a poor choice of words, she knows what she means. No, she doesn't. That's how the showrunners think this works. If Geiger counters work solely based on proximity to and away from radiation, well, this entire story won't make sense.
Why is it making that noise?
Because Turner is radioactive.
Uh-oh, he's more toxic than She-Hulk, although far less of a whore. Although we have found out that She-Hulk takes place in the years 2024 and 2025, so maybe it was just inflation why half a bag of chips was enough to get her to drop her drawers. And it would explain why Disney think that She-Hulk might get a couple of Emmys this season. But oh no, he's got radiation poisoning and a rash, and rashes are expensive. This is the cheapest CW series, so we're probably gonna have to cover it up. No, I'm not joking. They cover it up, presumably, so they don't have to do the makeup. I can think of no other reason for it. Let's see if you can. Oh, look, title sequences like that are expensive. We can't spend the rest of the money on makeup. We can't afford it. But we hop over to Blondie's boy toy, who is part of the Love Quadrilateral. And strangely, everybody in the Love Quadrilateral exists in this episode. And I know what you're thinking. But the showrunners do. Anyway, he decides to break into his dad's safe, which somehow he knows the combination of, and finds a Court of Owls mask.
Hey man, I'm gonna call you back.
It's just a mask, mate. What's the big deal? Because it shouldn't be a big deal. It's just a mask, mate. And yet somehow, this guy knows there's something weird about it. I think it's because he's read the script. So he pulls it out as if, oh, I can't believe he's got this. You could have left that on a pedestal by your bedside table. No one would have even given it a second glance. But either way, he puts the mask back, finds the lapel pin camera from a previous episode, hears the lift go at the front door, and thinks, oh, I better take this pin camera. Why not the painkillers? You know, the only thing that you came here and went in the safe for in the first place. You didn't take that. No, you found a mask and a pin and thought, yeah, better steal these. Why? Well, as you can see on page 369, I'm going to need that so that I can tell one of the people about it. Obviously, I'm joking. There's no way the script is this thick. It's going to be one A4 piece of paper with just wing it written on it, isn't it? Either way, he stashes the pinhole camera. We still don't know why he wants it. I'm not even sure he'd know it's a pinhole camera. He does have an IQ somewhere around 45. My guess is he thinks he's stealing a thermometer. But his dad walks in, finds him, is probably a bit suspicious, but he doesn't really say anything about it and lets him leave. Before answering a phone call going, don't worry about the Gotham Knights, we've got a way to track them now. That ought to be fun. Can you track radiation across an entire city if it's blocked by human skin? No. Oh, wonder how they're going to get around that one then. Harvey starts to lose his mind. Well, more like gain another one, I guess. This is where Castiel's acting really comes into his own. It's a shame that this guy wasn't in it from the start. We could have 9 hours of him being a boring person, or we could just allow him to act. It's a shame we'll never get to see Castiel in his prime.
Everyone talks to themselves, Harv. The difference here is that the other selves don't usually talk back.
To be fair, that's probably because a lot of people don't want them to. Can you imagine being one of the scriptwriters for this show and having to talk to yourself? Ugh. But Two-Face leads himself down the garden path. The Court of Owls set you up. You didn't actually kill anybody.
I think we need a little face-to-face.
And he's got a really horrible plan to do that.
We used to talk to each other in our dreams. Meet in the middle, we called it.
And how are you going to put yourself into a deep sleep? You see that medication over there? Well, honestly, if I had an alter ego that I knew killed people, I wouldn't be trusting him when he told me to do insane plans. Maybe it's just me.
They're also good for putting you in well, let's call it a deep sleep.
Or a coma. Kate Beckinsale could phone me and go, well, I'll talk to you if you put yourself in a coma. No! The answer is no. His other half is meant to be the insane one, but Harvey Dent himself is off his rocker. You're either a lunatic or thick as pig excrement. I don't know which is worse in this scenario.
Would I kill me? Well, I guess we're gonna find out, won't we?
That's really reassuring. I'm definitely gonna trust you now, Bob.
Perfectly safe-ish. The number is 17.
The answer is no. Just because you can act now doesn't mean I'm gonna be that stupid. Thank you very much.
I know you're gonna do this, Harv, because you're a sucker for the truth.
Just a sucker in general, to be honest. This is supposed to make you sympathetic to the fall of Harvey Dent, but it's incredibly difficult to be sympathetic for anybody this stupid. But being the good little Boy Scout that he is, he immediately follows through with the evil villain's plan. I still don't know why. Next up, we go back to the radioactive hell.
Iodide tablets to keep the radiation from making us all sick.
Oh no, he's emitting radiation. It's going to affect us. This is serious.
Don't you think it's a little late for that? We were all around that election.
That's an excellent point. Look, I've swallowed iodide, yes, but we were by a thermonuclear weapon. Why aren't we all dying?
I practically painted it as a still life. Why am I not radioactive?
That's an excellent question. Why aren't you toxic?
Maybe because it didn't.
What was that?
Maybe because it didn't.
Taking a bite out of your own hand?
Maybe because it didn't come in contact with your blood like it did with Turner?
Oh, so you're saying it's alpha radiation. I know they're not saying it's alpha radiation. It doesn't act like alpha radiation. So why are we describing it like alpha radiation? I know nothing about radiation, and I still know more than these people. And that's bad. That means they couldn't even be bothered to Google it, because they know less about radiation than I do, just existing throughout my life. The only reason radiation would affect you if it touched your blood is if it was alpha radiation, because alpha radiation is stopped very easily. So like paper or your skin would stop it. So you'd have to take it internally before it begins to affect you. So far, so Gucci. It would explain why he wasn't affected, because his skin stopped it. Great. So why are we taking iodide to stop it affecting us? And how is it radiating from his skin? If he swallowed it and it's affecting him, he also wouldn't be emitting it for it to affect you, or even be picked up by a Geiger counter.
And that was raw, undiluted electrum Carrie patched him up with.
Raw, undiluted electrum? It's a rock, love. How are you going to dilute a rock? In this episode, they also forget the difference between a solid and a liquid. People say life is stranger than fiction because it's so weird you couldn't write it, but somehow they wrote this.
All signs point to radiation poisoning. I don't even know how we would cure that.
We also don't even know what radiation is, love, so I'm not surprised you don't know what cures it. Now, if this was gamma radiation, it'd make a lot more sense, although they'd probably all be dead, because that gamma radiation would go through all of them, and the bricks, and is basically only stopped by really dense material like lead. And if you're like, that was a bit of random information, I know what's coming in the episode. And it's like they specifically wrote this episode just to piss me off. Like, well, he doesn't know much about radiation, but what he does know, we're gonna be completely wrong about deliberately. But Blondie's got a great idea. Okay, well, we can't cure him of radiation poisoning, so we'll just take him to a hospital. Like, oh, you can't do that. They'll hand him into the police. Get handed into the police or die. Most people wouldn't consider it a big problem. She does.
Sure, if you want him to wake up in a cell.
I'll settle for him waking up at all.
That might be the only time out of 10 episodes she's ever actually made a good point.
Harper's right, okay? Any doctor will just turn him into the GCPD.
At least he'll have the rest of his life. But then, of course, we've got Robin who's like, my mum will break the law for me. Just goes to show the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
No.
Dun dun dun. Turner is alive or a zombie. You can't really tell with this makeup. It's like, no, you can't just call your mom and ask her to break the law for you. That'd be rude.
You can't just call your mom and say, hey, mind treating Gotham's most wanted?
Spoiler alert, that's exactly what she does. Although she also does it in combination with a magic trick, so you know, swings and roundabouts.
Anyway, I think I'm feeling a bit better now, so let's just focus on exposing Lincoln March as the head of the court.
Excuse me, dearie? Oh, by the way, I know I've been poisoned by radiation and I'm dying, but I feel a bit better, so let's just ignore me and do that thing over there. I don't even know why this line was written in, because not only is it incredibly stupid, but everyone ignores it anyway and just moves on. Of course we're not going to do that. Shut up.
After we figure out how to cure you?
Yeah, because I don't know if you know, mate, but you are dying. Why did we write a line where the main character goes, no, just let me die, it's fine. I know you could cure me, but I'd rather not, thanks. But he has a word with Robin, fills her in on what happened to him when he got all the toxin in him. And he's like, look, it was horrible, but they did tell me that Batman killed my parents, which is absolutely stupid. Batman obviously doesn't go round killing innocent people, does he? You'd have to be a mindless, evil cretin to write something like that. Somebody who really has an axe to grind about a far superior character than anything you could create to even consider putting that in the story. And no one had put that in the story, obviously. No one would have such little talent.
There's no way that's true, right?
Turner, I'm so sorry.
That's a remarkably similar expression to what I had when I was watching this scene, actually. No one would be that much of a hack, would they? I'm sorry, it's true. We flash over to the letter from the first episode, what will happen when Turner finds out the truth. That, apparently. It's difficult to write a verbal response which accurately summarizes the emotional turmoil he must be going through right now. So we're just going to get him to give you a gormless expression instead.
They don't say how it happened, just that Bruce felt responsible.
That's a handy out that you can have so the fans don't crucify it. Batman doesn't kill anybody. Well, I didn't say he did. I just heavily implied it and then didn't correct it at any point in the future.
Batman doesn't kill. He told me that over and over.
And yet, despite this, you decided to write it into the script that he'd murdered innocent people. Nailed it.
I kept on racking my brain for another solution.
Why didn't you just ask him, love? He was alive for quite a while. He'd already told you what he'd done. Why didn't you just go, yeah, but why though? So how did that happen? I don't know about any of you fine people, but that would be my next question.
Why these pages were ripped out has consumed me, Gary.
Well, that's weird, because you never mentioned it again after the first episode. It's also a really minor point to get hung up on.
Dad had just died, and then you were framed for his murder. Did you really want me to pile on?
I mean, if you had, it might have taken his mind off it. It definitely would have been a distraction, I'll give you that one.
I wanted the truth. I deserve to know.
You don't want what you deserve. I'm fed up with characters in these shows talking about what they deserve. You are entitled to nothing, and what you deserve wouldn't be very pleasurable. It's not what you deserve, it's what you want. If you notice as well, the wet rag around his forehead, designed to lower the temperature of his brain, by the way, tends to be a bit important when you've got a temperature, to make sure your brain doesn't roast itself. Oh yeah, he's got it around his neck now. That's a bit weird, isn't it? Who puts the cooling rag around their neck? Oh, I know. The same ones which are supposed to have a rash there, but don't want the makeup artist to do it on him all the time because that's expensive. I know, we'll just make it look as if he's got a love bite on there that he's got to cover up. He's also sitting up and it's still staying there, which means they tied it around his neck. I'd love to be on set on some of these places and just go, what are you doing that for? Be like doing a video in real life, it'd be awesome. Everyone would hate me, but it'd be awesome. But he gets really annoyed when he finds out the truth and tells her to leave.
Leave. Leave!
Who knows, maybe he's taken over the voice of the audience for this episode. We get an excellent example of how the CW thinks typing works. She didn't type that many letters. This must be one of those ChatGPT medical systems on Windows 95. The best thing is, the actors in this series are so young, They wouldn't have ever even seen Windows 95. They might actually think that this is magic.
I just got a text from Brody. I think he might be in trouble.
Oh no, however will I cope? Also, why does Brody think he's in trouble? All he did was find a mask. He's like, my dad goes to Halloween parties.
I don't want to leave when Turner's so sick, but
But the son of the head of Court of Owls is really cute, so I'll make an exception.
What can I say? I much prefer her when she's jealous.
I'm sure Brody doesn't know anything about that. But I'm guessing your problem isn't with him.
At least she's very aware of social cues, because right now, even her body language is insufferable. Oh, you know your problem. Yeah, you.
My problem is that you're still talking while I'm trying to save Turner's life.
Based economy.
She has never been more based than she is at this very moment in time. I don't think it's possible for me to like a character more than I do right now.
My problem is that you're still talking while I'm trying to save Turner's life.
Why don't you just piss off, love? We just need the guy next to her to start clicking his fingers and shaking his hands. Yeah, he's not gonna help you, love. It's like, oh, that was savage. He just starts fetching a fire extinguisher for the burn. Dude, when I said give her a head wiggle, that's not what I meant. Look at her! How do you even set up a love quadrilateral with somebody who makes that expression? I might make that a thumbnail just so nobody has any idea what's going on. How dare you? But Robin comes up wanting something to do. I've got to leave. Can I help in any way?
It makes sense. You did apply electrum to a gushing neck wound.
How does that make sense? If you're going to use language like it makes sense, did you at least think about it first? Here's a rock. Here's a neck wound. You put rock on neck wound. How is it in his blood? Unless you're saying that magic rock turns into magic liquid and then enters bloodstream. That's exactly what they're saying, actually. They just didn't think about it long enough to realize that's what they were saying. So now we're going to talk about a solid rock as if it's a liquid.
And what's the bad news?
We're on episode 10 of Gotham Knights, and you're probably on at least a 3-year contract.
Turner needs a blood transfusion, an influx of new blood until there was only a small amount of electrum left.
Yes, because it's a liquid rock, so if we take the blood out, we'll also take the liquid rock with it, which will dilute down the rest of the remaining liquid rock in his system. Though it's a solid rock. Like I said, this episode was custom designed to annoy me.
At those levels, the electrum should heal him instead of make him sicker.
Why? Small amount of electrum can heal the damage which it does to its system. Bigger amount of electrum can't. Why? Wouldn't more electrum heal him faster? If we're going to come up for magic rules of our universe, can we at least make them make sense?
Blood transfusions aren't exactly on the list of medical procedures that can be performed in an attic.
I think they actually would be. It's not that complicated.
No, but it's the only idea we've got.
We scavenged our brain cells, put them into one pile, and came up with a singular ideal between the 5 of us. The heroes of Gotham, everybody. It's a terrible plan, but it's the only one we could think of, so we might as well do it anyway.
Stealing from the blood bank in broad daylight is not the most covert operation I've ever pulled.
But it's a hell of a lot more covert than what you're about to do later in the episode. You think hiding a few blood bags on you in daylight is difficult? How about an entire person?
It's not like Turner wants me around here anyway.
Another case of a man taking credit for a woman's work.
Well, I suppose even a broken clock's right twice a day. So Blondie goes off to meet her boy toy, and he's like, I had to call you. I found an owl mask in my dad's safe. Who cares? I mean, there are tons of cosplay costumes that could make you distraught, like if you broke into a safe and found a Teletubby cosplay, but none of them should make you go, it's dangerous. But she decides to tell him everything about how his dad is the leader of the Court of Owls, which has been ruling the city, and the rest of it. And then he says this.
I found this video too.
Except he didn't. He didn't find a video. He found a camera. The camera was transmitting to the van. The video is in the van. The video isn't even on the camera. It's a pinhole camera. How do you even plug something into it? The whole point of the camera was that it transmitted wirelessly. Oh, but I found this VHS tape. Remember, these people use Windows 95, but at the same time, we can put a tape inside a little pinhole camera.
I think my dad killed Cressida Clark.
Yeah, so I found this tape of my dad killing Cressida Clark, and you know what? I think that means he killed Cressida Clark. Your brain must have worked overtime to figure that one out, mate. Video evidence of him doing it, and he's like, well, I think he might have done it.
What kind of sicko records something like that?
You're looking at her. But she comes up with a plan. If you give us the video, we can hand it into Harvey Dent and prove our innocence. This is the end of the series, folks. Or at least we can dream. It's the last string of hope I have left. Don't take it from me yet. But he says, I don't have an Omni. In fact, I hid it with my stash. So she commands him to go and get it. But of course, because the combined total of his brain power would struggle to heat up bread, he doesn't do that. But now we get the Joker bonding with Batman.
Oh, God. You look terrible.
I knew there was a reason why I liked her.
Even more so than usual.
Keep the insults coming. If you can do this for the rest of the episode, it might actually be entertaining. But she feeds him chicken soup. I'm not joking, this is the plot. Look, if I'm having a last meal and you bring me chicken soup, I am not going to be pleased. The water is meant to make the soup go further. At least just give me a chicken, at the very least.
I didn't expect such bedside manner.
Yeah, well, that veiny little monster is all my fault.
Oh, so that's what you meant by giving me his last meal. Normally I'd say, do we really have to talk about his veiny little monster? But in this case, he's dying. We'll let it slide.
Yeah, well, that veiny little monster on your neck is all my fault.
Oh, on his neck. Yeah, I think I might have misheard that one the first time. And again, the bandage on his neck to hide the veiny little monster that we can't be bothered to even put there. But then she finds out the markings on his neck have spread to his chest. It's getting worse fast.
This whole last meal thing was supposed to be a joke, but this is getting a lot worse fast.
So now it's a celebration. Over to Two-Face now, who's put himself into a coma to talk to himself. In this scene, we actually see Castiel act for the first time in the entire series, which also means his casting in this role actually makes sense. For the first time in the entire series, why did we wait so long to actually give him material to work with? He's been wasted in this role for the entire series, and now he's just wasted in this show.
Tell me what the hell is going on. Ooh, it's using the Harvey Dent district attorney voice.
This is a lot easier when the cast take the piss out of themselves. It saves me a lot of work.
Why are you here? To protect you?
Yep, that's the angle he's going to spin. It's a very basic story that I'm sure you've heard before. When we were kids, our dad wasn't very nice. Remember, this is a show all about
Dad issues.
So he would beat you and your psyche broke. That led to the second personality coming around, and now whenever he gets stressed, the other personality takes over and handles the stress for him.
Tag in when things get too tough. Then what the hell was me waking up next to Rebecca March? I was doing you a solid.
You went to protect me, why did you start banging people? I was just the best kind of wingman. Look, I handled the difficult parts the night before. You just get to wake up in the morning and reap the benefits.
She was married then, and she's married now. I like to keep it simple. Do what needs to be done.
And she needed to be done. I don't even know if this is meant to be funny. It's just incredibly difficult to take this scene as seriously as I think they intended it to be. But he's like, yeah, mate, I basically exist to rack up the notches on your bedpost. You know, Batman has a gadget belt with a tool for every occasion. Well, I have something similar, just with half a bag of chips in every pocket. I've also got a little black book. It just says She-Hulk on every page. She's always available. If I really struggle, I go to the writers of She-Hulk. Yeah, they're on the very last page under the heading Apocalypse.
I do the things that you can't do.
This is supposed to be I handle the stressful situations you can't deal with, but instead it turns out that Two-Face is basically just every hole's a goal. You won't lower your standards, so I decided to do it for the both of us. It turns out only two situations exist. Either you get a split personality, or invest in antidepressants and wine.
With you in the crosshairs of the Court of Owls, you're gonna need a guy like me.
Who are you banging in the Court of Owls? The only way we can survive this scenario is if we send the Court of Owls to heaven. So the only useful member of the gang is searching through old articles at the guy who originally experimented with Electrum to try and find something useful. And I call her the only useful member of the gang because Joker, who's also useful, is too busy trying to get her end away. I could save your life, or I could buy you chicken soup and try and bang you before you die. I mean, at least she's got priorities, no matter how skewed they may be.
This isn't our life.
That's because you're only getting one season, love.
When this is over, she's gonna go back to her life, and we will go back to ours.
And hopefully you'll get an acting gig that you deserve. And I mean that as a compliment, you're genuinely better than this.
Far away from Gotham.
That's the best idea you've had all series. Maybe wipe it from your CV, give it a nice freshen up.
Is that really what you want?
Of course it is.
How can I want anything else? Have you seen the show we're in? They made me a bomb disposal, hacker, thief, lockpicker, engineer, doctor, historian. Yes, I think we should all forget our time here.
Okay, we've always agreed that this place is a hellhole.
I don't think many of us can disagree with that. It's like the writers are leaving messages to me.
I have never had a family like this.
Have you ever wanted a family like this? You know what I'd want in my family? A bunch of insufferable cretins. Hey, I mean, it'd spice up the Christmas parties, I'll give you that one.
And I have it on pretty good authority that you haven't either.
That's because she just told you. Yeah, she's never had a family like this because she wants to get the hell out of Dodge and never look back. Of course I've never had a family like this before, and I wouldn't now if I had a choice.
Why would we let go of something that gives us a chance to feel whole?
Also, you have your own Two-Face, do you? Something to allow you to feel a whole. But from their research on the newspaper, they find out that people that actually get poisoned with this stuff die within 24 hours. Which means he's gonna pop his clogs in 6 hours. Now, normally TV shows, when they add in a timer, they're like, oh, he's gonna die in 24 minutes because there's 24 minutes of the episode left. It adds a little bit of tension. If this episode goes on for 6 hours, my head's gonna be spinning around like something out of The Exorcist. But Two-Face tells Harvey that actually the court is setting you up. All those murders that you thought was me, actually it was just them. They knew that you couldn't remember me, and so they just leave you in those positions. It doesn't actually make sense, because he was left with like a mask on or by the body, but Two-Face was awake during these times, so he would have gone along with it. That means he's setting up his alter ego as well, so going, oh, I don't know what's happening. I can only assume he's setting him up. And it was the Court of Owls that was bringing him out. It turns out that the music they were playing to him is the same one that their dad forced him to learn, which turns the music into a trigger for a stressful situation, and voila.
Leave car key here. The owl mask there.
They would have had to have given him the key, put the mask on him. He's playing innocent. Really doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm assuming because it doesn't make sense, it means that Two-Face is setting him up so that he can take over and start ruling the body for good. But because of the quality of this show, I don't know whether they just haven't thought about it, and so he's not lying, it's just bad script writing. The same thing as in Willow. In Willow, I thought an entire episode must be a fantasy, because the only way it could have been real is if they forgot about the plot of the same episode, with it being a magic forest. It turned out they'd just forgotten the plot, and so this might just be them not even understanding their own plot.
I had a ringside seat to how they did it.
And you would have had to have agreed to go along with it for them to do it. Why isn't your other half thinking this? But he says, I know how they operate. If you just let me take the lead, put me in charge, I can solve all of our problems.
Put me in, coach. Let's unleash some of that big dent energy.
That's how you know it was written by someone with blue hair in California. Look, all I'm saying is it's not about the size of the boat. It's about the size of the ocean. It's such a gaping chasm, it requires two of you to fill.
Oh, come on, Harv. It's not like we haven't done it before.
What, you've tag teamed someone before? No wonder that guy's wife kept coming back to you. But no, it turns out that Two-Face was the one that killed their father over the course of 3 hours. Begging, screaming, they go into a lot of detail.
I'm supposed to believe that my dad is the leader of a secret murderous cult that controls all of Gotham.
I agree, that does seem unlikely, largely because you're his son, and no one that could produce offspring that stupid could lead a secret cult that rules a city. But then again, we have seen his wife, so it's probably not his son. I think this one we can definitely blame on the wife.
Is it easier to believe he's a killer?
I'm not sure how that would help. Being a killer is what enables you to rule the city. One is just an admission of the other. Does she never think any line through before she says it?
Well, honestly, yes.
What? Yes, I would rather my dad be a killer than rule a city. Why? You can almost see the hamster on its wheel inside his head, except it's flat on its back, dead with its legs in the air. It actually hasn't turned the wheel since he was 12. But he's like, oh no, my dad rules a cult. My mom's in danger. Do you not think that your mom's in on it too? I mean, it is their safe. You thought it was weird that he had a mask. What do you think she was gonna think? Oh yeah, love, I thought this would just spice up the evenings. No, I think she'd have questions, unless she already knew about it. Oh, bearing in mind, I called this in the first episode. I want to say Gotham Knights has one of the most predictable plots ever, but I don't think I've been wrong so far. But don't worry, he's got a plan.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna call the police.
Yeah, hello, officer. I found an owl mask in my dad's safe. Can you come and arrest him, please?
The court has its claws in every part of the city. That includes the GCPD.
Well, I can't just sit here and do nothing.
You were going to sit there and do nothing. That was your plan. You were going to call the police so that they did it for you. Which admittedly, it is their job. But unless you were going to hop in the car and do a ride-along, your plan was to do nothing. Just get somebody else to do it for you. Which, given the brain power we're dealing with, is, it's probably for the best, I admit.
I mean, what am I supposed to say? Hey, Mom, Dad's a leader of a murderous cult. We need to go stay with Aunt Julie for a while?
Plot twist. That's exactly what he says. Second time in the same episode, someone gone, do you think I'm going to do this? That'd be stupid. And then immediately turn around and does it. Literally calling their own script stupid at this point. So she orders him, go off, fetch the camera footage, bring it back to me, and I'll give it to Harvey Dent. Back in the bell tower, and they're all panicking because he's going to die in 6 hours.
Well, the Wonder Twins here don't want to say anything, but the Electrum is going to kill you a lot faster than we thought.
So we thought we'd tell you, make you panic, make your heart beat faster, and speed it up even more. Wonderful plan. Congratulations.
I have good news.
You're marrying Brody and have to leave immediately to go on a honeymoon for at least the next month.
Yeah, now's really not the best time for good news.
Hear her out first, mate. There's still hope.
Brody's gonna help us.
Oh, well, that's disappointing.
Not a doctor here, but I've been doing some reading on blood transfusions, and honestly, they're somewhere between an oil change and plumbing.
Yeah, you're right. That certainly makes it sound like you're not a doctor. But they're full like, oh, we can't do this outside of a hospital. Now, like, it's a bit like plumbing. Can we at least decide on the complexity of our problem and then just maintain it for an episode?
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, you could die and then leave the series. So it really depends on your definition of wrong.
shouldn't be wasting your strength.
And no, listen to Blondie.
Joker, you're supposed to like him, not do him in. Poor guy's suffering enough already. You're like, yeah, listen to Blondie. At this point, I can only assume it's because he's rich and you want his inheritance.
I'm tempted to meet your gallows humor with more gallows humor.
Well, I'm sure we're all sorry we've missed that moment of comedy genius, because if there's one group renowned for their comedy talent, it is attractive blondes in Hollywood. The gallows humor just rolls off the tongue from their vast experience of disaster. Although they do have a lot of jokes about amorous directors.
I feel like my whole life has been a lie.
No, that's not true. You'll always have me.
Hasn't the poor guy suffered enough? He's gonna pop his clogs in 5 hours anyway, and you're trying to speedrun it. I don't have long to live. I'll be next to you every second talking to you. It's just like, no! He's lucky the Electrum isn't next to him, he'd take the rest of it. But he pulls her in and makes his move, and that is the face that results from it. It's not generally considered a good sign. I don't know, maybe this is the gallows humor she's had experience with.
Oh, you don't want this.
Yeah, why would she not want to get with a toxic, radioactive person who has 5 hours to live? How could anyone turn down that big of a catch? Speaking of being radioactive, he is actually killing her right now. If he's got alpha radiation inside him, so it's stopped by his skin, that's okay. Right until you do something which would transfer it through the skin barrier. Maybe exchanging fluids with a radioactive toxic man isn't a good idea.
No, I don't. You're my best friend.
And you're radioactive. I just think that's a good excuse in this scenario, to be honest. I think it beats you're my friend.
I thought that if this did happen, that I would feel, I don't know, something.
Dude, he's dying, love. You don't have to shoot him in the face while you're here. You're supposed to let him down gently, not drop him off a roof.
That bad, huh?
No.
Oh, I don't know, dude. Maybe it was just the necktie didn't do it for her.
I just thought I'd feel different with you than with Brody.
Do you know where this is going? I think it's obvious where this is going. I just don't feel like this with either of the two guys. We're going down the you have to experience something to know whether you are or not route. I don't know why. That's a lie. I do know why.
He's never made me feel that spark either.
Now that is weird. The whole idea of feeling a spark. Oh, it's about my feelings. Whether you like someone or not, generally obvious. You can ask someone about their opinion on Kate Beckinsale, and they'll be able to give you an answer. Nobody needs to touch somebody when they're radioactive to understand whether there's a spark or not.
Okay, I'll take the win with that one.
That wasn't a win, mate. That was a massive insult. You're just too thick to realize it. You know, he was a failure, but you're a failure as well.
I'm sorry, I'm just delirious.
And dying. That was your best excuse, actually. Use that as a grift. I'm sorry it was bad. I'm dying. See if she has the gall to call you on that one.
I don't want you to apologize.
Code red!
But at that very moment, the police turn up. Yeah, you know that whole alpha radiation which is stopped by your skin, so it's weird that he's transmitting it angle? Well, we're about to take that very tenuous understanding of radiation and then explode it into a million pieces, so nothing in this episode makes sense. With a massive close-up of her face for some reason.
Hey, I don't think we're gonna have time for that blood transfusion.
Oh, so that's why they decided to take him to the hospital. I did forget. This is Gotham Knights. It's very easy to forget it the moment the credits roll. But yeah, the police turn up full of sirens, and as ever, this guy is here to provide you with the vital information you need to know. In fact, it's so amazing, the entire cast turn around to look at him so that they can hear the transcendent wisdom which is about to leave his mouth.
They found us.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I couldn't have worked that one out from all the police cars downstairs with their sirens. Oh, I thought they just turned up for a party at Waterworld, maybe a chess championship in the living room. Can't believe they actually found us with their police sirens going. That's the low opinion they have of their audience. They're just like, this is for the mouth breathers at the back. Let's face it, if you sat through 10 episodes of this, you're not going to be very smart. You're essentially too stupid to change the channel on your television. And so it's just stuck on the CW forever.
Hide everything! We were never here!
I mean, if students are popping up here to hide their stash every day, it can't be very obvious that you were there to begin with, surely. But they go through and hide everything, and being the superheroes that they are, they have an in-depth tactical plan of how to hide their presence. Congratulations, love. No one will ever lift that blanket. But the police are here and they're in hazmat suits with Geiger counters. It turns out they must have known that the Electrum made you radioactive, which would make sense because they've used it before, and have tracked Turner's radioactive decay down to this very building, which means it's not alpha radiation then. Alpha radiation, stopped by your skin, would definitely be stopped by bricks, so they wouldn't be able to detect it. Can't be alpha radiation. In fact, if they can detect it across the city, this has to be incredibly powerful radiation. I mean, gamma radiation, that can go through bricks and everything. Would also go through the people. Well, I was painting it and it didn't affect me because it got stopped by my skin. Yeah, simultaneously, when it's in rock form, it's alpha radiation. When it goes into your skin and turns into one of those solid liquid things, then it's gamma radiation? Okay, but then that would have melted the other people in that room as well. Couldn't you have at least Googled radiation to make this make sense? Because it gets worse the longer the episode goes on from this point. Because they start tracking the radiation down with the Geiger counter. Oh, look, we're getting closer. Beaming it across the city, and now they're tracking it from outside as they get stronger to it. At this point, it's surprising Turner isn't glowing. We might as well dip him in water and use him as a nuclear power plant. So they all rush to hide that they were there and get Turner out of the building. Blondie tells them to get to the tunnels under the school because if he's underground, that might hide his radiation. We're definitely talking gamma radiation, aren't we? You have to go into a concrete bunker to hide it. So imagine the concentrated radiation he's beaming out of his armpits. Or if you'd said, kissed him, for instance. All of these people are dead. They have to be. If you turned off those lamps, they'd be glowing in the dark.
Hey, what about the belfry? Leave that to me.
Yeah, she's got a plan. And as you would expect with any plan being left to Blondie, it's a really, really stupid one. Alpha radiation, gamma radiation, zeta radiation. Oh, you've seen nothing yet. If you wanted the perfect example of how they have no idea what radiation is, well, you're in for a treat. Because the police come into the building, they track down the source simply by the strength of the signal. I do find it weird that they're in full radioactive suits. Meanwhile, the police behind them have no protection at all and are still right behind them. You know, it's okay if the police behind them melt, but at least those two guys will be protected. But they use the signals to find the door and break it down. Of course, when they get inside...
What the hell?
Please don't call my parents.
They find Blondie smoking the stash, and you know what that means. The writers think that pot is radioactive. Not only radioactive, but so radioactive, it can be detected by a Geiger counter from across the city. It's the only thing that makes sense, because otherwise they'd be like, well, that isn't what's setting off our readings. There must be something else in this room that's causing it. Instead, no, they just walk off. Of course, it's one of those people again. That happened before. In fact, also, we had to go to somebody who was using a microwave. That apparently sets these off as well. No idea how a Geiger counter works, these people. Now, the boy toy is trying to retrieve the movie footage. Unfortunately, his mum interrupts him. He starts trying to warn her, we need to leave Gotham, you need to pack a bag right now. My dad's a murderer, he walks for the Court of Owls, we're all in danger and we need to leave. At no point does he even consider that she's in on it, because why would a husband and a wife work together on something? That's crazy talk.
You killed my father.
Our father, Harv.
I'm not sure that makes it any better. I mean, it was mine too. I feel your pain. We're the same person.
You really want justice? Then you have to fight fire with fire.
You see what I mean about they finally let Castiel act? I hope he got paid extra for that. And put the cameraman in a raincoat. Why did you leave it till episode 10 before you allowed this guy to act?
It is time for you to give me the keys.
You are stretching the car analogy a little bit far at this point, though. So Robin goes over and says, Mom, I need you. It's life and death. Kind of handy she's in the hospital, and she takes her to a side room.
Put a vest on him to block as much radiation as I could.
Yeah, I've put a vest on him to block the radiation. The radiation that can be detected from across the city. At this point, he must have given you a lethal dose of radiation, and now you're giving it to your mom. These heroes are horrible people, they really are.
Mom, whatever you do, please don't call the cops.
Because I've just killed you with radiation poisoning, I'm sorry. But she pulls back the curtain to reveal Turner Hayes unconscious. I literally have no idea how she got him into the hospital. She said, I snuck him in. How? He can't walk. It took two of them to lift him out of the room, and now Robin can apparently sneak him in all covert style. So she guilt trips her mum. If you don't help me in the next few minutes, he's going to die. Oh, that's fine, dear. I'll just nip out and gather the emergency blood transfusion kit that we keep around. But Brody's panicking. We need to leave. Our father's evil. And of course, the mother doesn't believe him. Or at least says that.
There has to be a mistake. Your father is not a killer.
I saw the video.
If I was the mother, I'd be incredibly disappointed that I'd given birth to someone this thick.
He's dangerous, and we need to get out of here right now.
Of course, there is one flaw in this plan. It's a dad, and you know what this show's about. So now we enter the great paradox. He's a man, a father, leading an evil society. So it kind of fits with the message about men we want to tell, which is why we told everybody that part first. But at the same time, he's a man, and ruling a city would be quite prestigious. And as you know, the Batwoman writers can't compliment a man, so we're really left with only one option.
Another case of a man taking credit for a woman's work.
It's actually somebody else standing behind the throne, and the man's just taking credit for it. That way the dad gets to do all the evil acts, but the brain behind it, the prestige, the power, well, that rests on a different person. Don't trust her, mate. Look at the crazy eyes. While this is going on, her mum decides, yes, I will do that blood transfusion, thank you very much. I still don't have any radiation protection on me, but turns out I won't need it because we're all magic now. He's only emitting gamma radiation, don't worry about it, turn your brain off, it'll be fine.
Guard the door.
Is that how you guard the door, love? You just pull the handle a bit. No one's getting in there now. She said guard it.
You
talk about justice. You don't want justice.
You can't handle justice.
You want to burn it all down.
So would you if you spent as long as I have watching this show. It's like a zombie outbreak in Resident Evil at this point. It's the only way to make sure it doesn't spread any further. We have to protect the outside world. The population at large don't know what they're in for if this escapes.
Oh, Harv. Always the prosecutor.
Never the bride. But after Harvey is rejected, giving somebody else control of his own body, which is the first sane decision he's made this entire episode, there's really only one thing left. They have a fight.
I will never give you control. You say that like you have a choice.
I mean, if he didn't have a choice, what was the point of all this to begin with? So they have a fight. In the real world, he starts going into shock. I'm still not sure if that's because of the fight he's having in his own head, or because he made a really stupid decision to take all those things right at the start in the first place. Batboy starts to flatline mid-blood transfusion, so she starts doing CPR on him. His organs are shutting down due to radiation. Not even sure what CPR is meant to do at this point. Finish the blood transfusion so the magic rock will heal him, I thought was the only strategy. And eventually Harvey Dent gets the upper hand in the fight and wins. While Two-Face is screaming about how he needs him and so he'll have to take his offer eventually. Basically spoiling your own plot for the last 3 episodes, I'm assuming. Well done, great scriptwriting. So Harvey comes around with an ambulance pushing oxygen into his face. I'm pretty sure that's not the treatment for what he had wrong with him, but wouldn't be the biggest mistake they've made this episode.
You had no vitals for a full minute.
That doesn't make any sense because he was still thinking in his head. How is he supposed to think if he's dead? If he had no vitals, why were you pushing oxygen into his mouth? Surely his heart beating is more important. Wouldn't we have come round to someone with a defib making his heart go again, rather than just blowing into his face? I don't know, it just seems like you weren't that bothered if he came around or not.
Lucky to be alive.
He certainly is with your medical treatment.
Thank you.
I don't think he did that much, mate, to be honest. Back to Batboy, he's fine as well now. The blood transfusion's done, and the mythical metal which was killing him before is now healing him, because that's how that works. The mom leaves, and you think at this point she's going to call the police. For some reason, she doesn't seem to have done.
Thank you. Don't thank me. Not for this.
See, that would make sense if she was going to call the police, but she doesn't, so it doesn't make sense. We can't even wrap up our own plot threads in this thing. The boy toy arrives, and his mom's just standing there without any of her things to leave with.
We can't just walk out of here with nowhere to go.
I'm pretty sure she means we can't just walk out of here.
Steph said...
Stephanie knows.
Congratulations, now you got your friend killed as well. You are a marvelous boyfriend. I can only imagine what your conversations with the career advisor were like. When I grow up, I want to be a disappointment. At least you achieved that one, mate.
All of this, it's insane, but I promise you, I will take care of it all.
I'm not even sure you can take care of dressing yourself in the morning. You were the kind of person I think was probably breastfed till they were 10.
I will keep you safe.
He very quickly regrets that line, because they stand up, hug, because she really cares about him, and then we get this. Oops. Do you think it was at this moment that he realised he'd messed up? Or is he so slow that it'll take him about 30 hours to put all the pieces together in his head?
So naive, so busy trying to play hero that you can't see the real threat.
No, I'm the true brains behind this operation.
Your father's not the one people should fear.
He's just the easily controlled man, which I get to do my bidding. That's all he's good for. The messaging of this show is glorious, isn't it? So she stabbed her own son in the heart and looks upon him with all of the disdain he deserves. Look, some people I'd feel sorry for, but after watching him for this many episodes, I'm just surprised it took her this long, to be honest. Harvey talks to his staff. He's like, no, I'm so wonderful now. Everything's better. I've never felt this energetic, this well. I'm so relaxed. I feel clear-headed for the first time in a long time. That's probably the concentrated oxygen that they were blasting into your face, to be honest. Robin's mum comes back and finds out somehow Robin has magically teleported him out of the hospital. Still don't know how she carried him in and out without anybody seeing him. She's about 4'2". I don't know how the physics would work, but they didn't think about it, so why should I?
Don't worry, I was careful. No one saw me sneak him out.
But how did you sneak him out? It's the mechanics of it that I'm more curious about. But the mum's pissed. I can't believe you've set me up as a criminal. Now I'm an accessory. I'm like, well, you're not. As long as you phone him now.
You can't turn them in, because I'm one of them.
I mean, you're about half of one of them. Just look at the angle of the mother looking down on you. We've got to be talking about 4'5". But she admits to her mother that she's been working with Batman and she was Robin all along. We don't get to see the mum's reaction because, you know, why would anybody be interested in that? Boy Toyd's dad comes back and really isn't that concerned that she's just stabbed their son.
Didn't have to do this.
Do what? Clean up your mess?
I have to admit, I did like the previous scene that she did with her son, and then it very quickly got ruined in this one, because now there's only one message. Empowerment! Because her husband's just some dolt that she has to clean up after, you see.
Maybe if you weren't so careless, this could have been avoided.
It's the men's fault, you see.
Men always need a trophy.
If you weren't a man, I wouldn't have to do all of this. You see, you just make work for me. I'm the true brains behind the operation. You'd never be able to manage this without me. It's the ultimate behind every great man is a greater woman angle. Yeah, that's been true so many times throughout history. Yeah, I mean, if this man didn't have someone nagging at him to waste his time constantly, no one knows how he would have ever managed to have achieved anything.
Did it make you feel powerful? Killing that traitor? Is that why you did it?
Yeah, because that's the thing that men are renowned for, isn't it? Being so insecure that they constantly talk about power and power dynamics and empowerment. What's going to happen next? Is he going to be completely insufferable and write himself into parts which make no sense even within the story itself, just to make ourselves feel better? He's the really insecure one, he is, I tell you. But she finds his phone and she messages back, "Oh no, my dad found the footage and he destroyed it." Solving the father's mess once again. What would we ever do without her? Apart from be happy.
Why are you still standing there? Get a mop.
Do the household chores like you deserve. This is incredibly realistic. Oh, he's so scared of her. I mean, he is a foot taller than her, and she'd have absolutely no ability to impose any authority over him at all. But don't worry, we're all going to believe this incredibly realistic scenario, which could definitely happen. Why did you put the phone in water? Do you not know that phones are waterproof? Congratulations, you got his phone temporarily soggy. However, will the police get the evidence of it now? I can really tell you're the brains behind the operation. But back with the Gotham Stooges and everything's fine. He's fully healed, he's not radioactive anymore, which I'm grateful for because if that radiation story made any less sense, I was going to need a second personality to handle it for me as well.
And they might have hinted that the lead in those old bells were confusing their sensors.
You did what? I told the police that the lead in the belfries was confusing their sensors. Why would it do that? Lead, you know, that thing which is famous for blocking radiation. It wouldn't have confused their sensors, it would have hidden it from their sensors, so they wouldn't have been able to track it there in the first place. How can you simultaneously know nothing about radiation, but get every detail about radiation exactly wrong? Like the opposite of true.
So they really should check the science lab.
Why would they check the science lab? They tracked it to the belfry. As they went into the belfry, it got stronger. As they left the belfry, it would have got weaker. Why would they go somewhere else? They know it's in the belfry. This isn't something that's open for debate. This would be a scientific, factual reality which they couldn't ignore.
By the time they finished that wild goose chase, the radiation had dissipated.
How did you send him on a wild goose chase, which went against the very physics of reality? But he's sitting between books, now he's found out about his dad and he's decided to mope. Of course, the Joker's here and she's incredibly happy that he's moping, because apparently that's incredibly attractive. So she decides to look at him less like a piece of meat and more like a puppy dog. Finds out that he made a move with Stephanie and that didn't work, and that drives her into one action. Because he's like, "You're amazing, you always tell me the truth. You're not afraid to show me what you're really like, even when they can't stand it." And she's like, well, if he can't stand me before, she makes a move on him. So when she pulls back, it drives him to do the same thing. And Bob's your uncle. Maybe we'll get a mini Joker. Meanwhile, we find their son, who wakes up as he's been carried away. Good job they had that Electrum then, I guess. And I only know one thing about this episode. It's like it was custom made to piss me off. We took all of the facts of reality and the world and then just got all of them wrong. Our story didn't make sense, there were plot holes all over the place, and we didn't even have much Joker in it to carry the episode like she has every other week. But there is one thing you can rely on the Gotham Knights for, and that is an incredibly bad episode of entertainment. I can keep saying it's getting worse, which can be weird, but it's more that it's getting worse in different ways. It's trying new avenues of how it can descend down the cliff. Maybe this is the advantage of having a different writer for every episode. They all have new, unique talents and methods of making something trash. And so by the end of this series, maybe we'll have explored them all and created the ultimate compendium that can be used to teach future generations how not to write. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.